The table you're about to see me make started with a text from my friend Jens. He just wrote, "Dining table," which is kind of like a bad signal for a woodworker to start a custom table. The ask was to create something really elegant and simple, something that came apart and fit into their small Manhattan apartment and even smaller Manhattan staircase. So we went with a design that had a gap down the center of the table completely unobstructed, so that when you looked at it from the side, it almost looked like it was split in two. Enjoy the rest of the video where I take this render and bring it into the world. I start this project off by rough cutting this beautiful 8/4 white oak. Paying special attention to the grain orientation, since a lot of these will be edge joined together, I want the joined pieces to look like one solid piece. I run all the rough lumber through the planer to make it flat and equal thickness. I start pairing the pieces that'll be edge glued together for the legs. I use my track saw to get a straight edge so that when I glue it together there's no gaps. Then I cut each leg panel to final width. And while I'm here, I also start working on the legs of the bench. Each leg panel will be joined by identical bow ties, which I cut all the pieces for and use a bandsaw jig to make sure that each one is exactly the same size. Now that all the bow ties are cut, I can start laying out where they'll finally be embedded into the wood. I use a 1-inch strip of MDF to make sure that the gap is maintained and perpendicular. I use a marking knife to mark out the bow ties so that I have a nice place for my chisel to rest. I route out the bulk of the waist and chisel the rest to the line. Then I continue the process on the table legs and the other bench leg. Time to move on to making the stretchers, which provide stability and hold the tabletop down and connect them to the legs. The stretchers will be connected to the legs via a lap joint, which are two equal height recesses in the wood that kind of interlock together. It creates a lot of stability and a good alignment point for the life of the table. Before I make the recesses on the legs, now is a good time to clamp everything together and trim it to final size. Then I do the same process for the table legs. The assembly of this piece will be done with big 3/8 inch bolts. That'll provide stability and the ability to take it apart and put it back together again really easily. When drilling these holes, I needed to account for having clearance for the washer, the bolt, and the socket that puts it together. Cut the decorative chamfer at the end of each stretcher and begin installing the threaded inserts, which will accept those 3/8 inch bolts. With the bottom of the table and bench ready to go, it's time to move on to making the tops. I trim the tops to final width, and even though I took extra special care to keep everything flat during the clamping process, I still found it necessary to make a router flattening jig and make sure that these pieces were exactly the same thickness and perfectly flat. Now that all that's done, I can start marking out where the threaded inserts will go that connect the base and the top. I do the same process on the tabletop. This was the first time I put the top on the base and finally got to see how it turned out. Now that the base and the top are bolted together, I can trim the table to its final length. To improve the lateral stability of the table, I cut 1/4 inch steel plates, which will be bolted into each leg and then bolted into the table. And this will just keep the legs from tilting back and forth, and will make sure they always stay at a 90-degree angle. A router template helps me make 1/4 inch recesses for the steel plates to sit flush in. I don't think I've ever installed so many threaded inserts on a build before. I think we used over 60 of these things. But I'm glad we did, because I don't think I could have made this table appear so simple and be so stable as it is without them. We're nearing the end, and I sand everything to 180 grit. get everything ready for finish by popping the grain with mineral spirits. For this piece I used Rubio Monocoat 5% white. It's super durable and leaves the wood looking like it was barely even finished. It also decreases any kind of yellowing or darkening of the wood and really shows off the character of the white oak. Now comes my favorite part of every build, which is photographing it and documenting it. I love this part of the process. You can reflect on all the work you did, all the problems you solved, and just appreciate this thing that's actually in front of you that was just a thought a few weeks ago. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Hope you feel inspired to go make whatever the universe wants you to make. Like and subscribe for more, and have a solid day.